Welcome, everyone, to the 451 Degrees podcast, the podcast about censorship on the Unsafe Space network. And joining me today is Ian.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi, good. How are you?
Not too bad.
That's good. So today we're going to talk about basically what is catch and kill copyright strikes. So I noticed this years ago when I started my YouTube channel, when I would do reviews of movies. Sometimes those reviews would get copyright striked, even though I would do reviews for other movies by the same distribution company. But the reviews that would get copyright striked were the ones that were negative.
I was about to ask you, are they negative reviews that are getting slammed?
Yes.
Go figure.
Yes. And no amount of fair use, countering would work. For one thing, on YouTube, when it comes to copyright claims, they don't review those. They just immediately assume that the company who is copyright striking you is in the right and give them money.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty big problem already, because there's no amount of back and forth on that. And if you, I remember, I think it was some streamer, a big one actually, said, well, they would need like 90,000 employees to check all of those. And it's like, it's Alphabet. You think they can't afford to hire 90,000 employees?
Yeah.
That's kind of a silly idea. But now recently, the new Amazon Lord of the Rings TV show has come out. And already I've seen a few other reviewers say that they have had immediate copyright strikes on any video they make about this TV show, which is bombing, like with a lot of people. Yeah. Now, you'll notice that there aren't a lot of copyright strikes on positive videos. Like they don't like.
Of course not.
Yeah. Because they may just block them. That's the thing, though, is that when someone gets a copyright strike on their video, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're making money off of it.
Mm-hmm.
The company, they may just instead block it from distribution, including in the United States, including in most European countries. They could decide that. I had Sony block a video in like every Asian country in the world, essentially.
Yeah, they do allow that to downrank videos too. It basically kind of kills the momentum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It makes it, if you're smaller, it makes your channel hard to build up. If you're big, it makes it hard for you to reach your audience. And I find this very dirty, because now some countries don't have a fair use doctrine. They don't, but some do. The United States does.
Mm-hmm.
Which means that a video that we did about Lord of the Rings, if we showed footage from it, if we showed images from it, and we talked about it, and we showed our faces, and you heard our voices, technically that's fair use according to United States law.
Right.
Now the way the system works is that after they make the claim, which they could do it manually, or they could do it with like an algorithm, which you as a user do not have access to. Also,
no, you don't. Yeah, I get all the time because of music. I have rights to. I do have a license for. Every time I do a live stream, and I end. Actually, I think it's my opening credits actually that gets slammed, and I have to appeal it every single time.
Yes,
every single time.
I know. I saw a channel that someone talked about that. They bought a license for music and they kept getting copyright strikes for it. I get mostly, now that I moved away from reviews and now do video game live streams, I get strikes for music that play in the game.
Yep, that will happen.
Like all the time.
Sorry, let me pause and get the cat out. I didn't realize that she was in.
I get copyright strikes for music, and it's like, it's not my choice. Like recently, what I find funny though is that when I get copyright striked on original music from the video game itself, like I played Destiny 2 and I got copyright striked on the music that is for Destiny 2, and I just was like, all right, I'll just mute the music in the game, which actually came to a funny moment when my co-streamer, Nameless, was trying to go, look at this dance party that's going on, press this button. And I'm like, is something supposed to happen? Because like, I don't have any music playing because on purpose. So I have no idea what's happening here. Is it a banging beat? Like,
Well, I know
like
certain games too, they have options now, like if you're streaming, that you can check it. That way it won't play any copyrighted music.
yes, a few games are starting to do that. I've played some old games. The Alan Wake games are extremely bad for doing that. And Alan Wake 2 is supposedly coming out relatively soon. I mean, when games say soon, they usually mean in like 3 years.
Yeah.
Like, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
yeah, I've gotten, but I mostly, and it's kind of why I did this, get copyright striked on original music from Japanese video games because they refuse to accept fair use policies in other countries. And it's like, well, then I'm not going to play your video games. Like,
Yeah.
I just won't even do it. And I think like I got strike for Final Fantasy VII. I was like, that game is so old. I can't even play something that old. But anyway, what they do is after they claim it, you can dispute it. And you can say it's fair use. You can say, I'm playing a video game, I'm reviewing a movie or TV show, and that doesn't go to YouTube. That doesn't go to Google or a third party like who has no stake in this. It goes to the people who claimed the copyright in the first place. So,
and they can either accept it or they can reject it, which is ridiculous. Even if it is fair use, they can still reject it. I've had that happen.
Yes, they can. Yes, they some of them totally will. They won't care because what's the likelihood that you're going to be able to like find a lawyer and protect your rights to fair use? Probably pretty slim. Honestly, YouTube is opening themselves up to a class action lawsuit by not protecting fair use because they are technically, because of the fair use, claiming content that is not their own. Because they don't have access to my face. They don't have access to your face as their content. That's not the case. Now, I've noticed that they happen more often on the negative reviews. And Amazon is doing it like crazy recently because that Lord of the Rings TV show is not doing well, and no one wanted it.
Ratio pretty hard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had a discussion recently about Lord of the Rings fans. Some Lord of the Rings fans didn't like the Peter Jackson movies because they felt. I mean, they're very hard fandom to please. So with minor changes, if you make minor changes, you might make them mad. And I don't necessarily.
The OneRing.net used to be like that. Now they're kind of endorsing this new show, but they went hard on Peter Jackson for changes.
Well, if anything, that's because of sponsorship, I would guess. That's a guess.
Yeah.
But anyone who changes their opinion that quickly.
Oh yeah. They sold out for access. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the other thing is that, if you're a reviewer and you want early access to content, you usually have to sell out your review in the first place. But if you're not willing to do that, you may not get access at all. And then they might go after your channel with these copyright strikes. Now, I have never gone past the second stage of a copyright strike myself because of the fact that if they push it further, it can hurt your channel. What I've done myself is private the video and then upload it to something like Rumble because it's safer. They're not as captured by this kind of system. And in fact, I don't even think they have much of a system for copyright striking. Which
probably not the moment. They'll probably have to implement something at some point, but
yes. Now I understand why YouTube built a copyright strike system in the first place because people were uploading whole episodes, whole movies, entire songs, and you can't monetize those. That is copyright theft. But I, myself, am not 100% behind copyright law at all. I don't know about you, but I feel like it's been strangling things.
Oh yeah, I mean it's been abused for sure. That's kind of the issue, and it makes sense that the reason why copyright exists is to protect the artist, right? Make sure that they are getting paid for their product, which makes sense. The issue that we're running into now is the abuse, and we've kind of cited several examples at this point. One of them is like, I don't like your review, therefore I'm going to issue a claim or a strike against you because of said review.
Yeah.
And you're gonna see more of that being used in the future, I bet.
Yeah, probably. I saw, the movie Arrival?
Yeah.
I did a review of that. It was mediocre in my opinion. And my copyright strike was manual, which means, according to them, a human being looked at it and claimed it as me using their video clip, which, by the way, I didn't use a single video clip from the movie in that video.
Do you stills at all or anything?
Just stills. So there were literally no video clips. I was like, you can't even say this correctly. I mean, that to me was a real lie. But then recently, I think it was last year, what is his name? I can't remember. Is Trevor Noah. That's it.
Okay.
There was a video on Twitter going around about from one of his stand-ups back when he was still in South Africa, basically against the minor protesters, which made it out like he was for the elite of the country and he wasn't for the little man and all that stuff. And that was counter to his image here in the US. And then he or someone who worked for him started copyright striking all versions of that video.
Of course, yeah, because it doesn't support the narrative.
Yes, it made him look bad. And now people were saying that, oh, well, you can't share that anyway. It is his content, and which to me was kind of a silly argument. It's like, yeah, it is, but he's not losing any money from that specific content by us sharing a clip of that huge stand-up. Like, that's not what's going on, because that's one of the reasons why copyright exists is, as you pointed out, that it's about the money, the financial gain from your content. If you're not losing really financial gain from the sharing of the content in other forms by other people, then really you have no standing, is what it comes down to, which is why things like Mystery Science 3000.
Yeah, Mr. Science Theater. Yeah.
Yeah. You can definitely do that. You don't even have to ask them, like, can I watch your movie and make fun of it and broadcast that? That's actually 100% protected. They've already decided that one, which is funny because they're on YouTube now. They have a ton of videos on YouTube where they do that. And I grew up watching them and they always made me laugh. But it's not, watching Mosquito with the three of them making fun of it is not the same as watching Mosquito.
Right. No, you're watching it more for the commentary than anything else. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one of the reasons why people say the commentary, the transformative nature of anything you do in response, including like making fun of it, like the hizzy dubs putting their mouths over the content and saying different things. Those are all transformative enough that you're not actually losing any money as Disney if they do it to a Marvel movie. Now, it's relatively easy for a channel like Hizzy to protect that because they're so big. They probably have the money and the time to protect themselves. Most other people will not in content creation. And most other people will not be able to get big enough with this current system doing that to them to learn how to protect themselves, unfortunately, to get the ability to do so. So to me, especially the monetization one is theft. This is it's not just strangling them, it's also theft. If they're making money off your transformative content, they're stealing. It's essentially the same as if they were trying to make money off of a magazine article about their movie or TV show.
Yeah. Getting back to the whole Trevor Noah thing for a moment, one of the things I'm kind of concerned with going forward is that either media companies, news companies, even like, let's say it's a political figure, they could use copyright as a means of silencing criticism. And that is ultimately very dangerous.
It is 100% dangerous, because we should be able to, especially with public figures, quote them, show their video of them saying what they said, and talk about it. We should be able to share it. We should be able to make content from it, even if it is silly or even if it is negative. That is, if they start using it as saying that we're stealing their copyright, which one thing, they're probably not making money off of this. They're because it's a speech, and in all likelihood, or an interview, which we could see media companies do it on their behest. So, so like an interview from 10 years ago that shows Biden lying about his college education, for example.
That's a good example.
They could copyright strike it for him, essentially, so that people don't get to see it. Now, I have seen it. It's kind of, horrible, but I don't think it's as commonly known. And maybe that was one of the reasons why. That one I'm not sure on, but it was not shared that often, actually. I don't think it's a very well-known video. But we do have to, I think you are right on where this is going. Like, it's bad enough when a private entity does it, but it's going to be way worse when it starts being about our politicians, about our leaders, government officials. It's going to be way worse.
Narrative control, I think, is going to be a big topic this year, with it being an election year.
Yes.
We already see YouTube already kind of tightening the screws again. If you've talked about Reclaim the Net at all, or if you read Reclaim the Net, there we go. It's a website, not a YouTube channel. They have plenty of articles about a lot of YouTube censorship that's coming up. And it's pretty terrible.
Yeah, which is, we have talked before about Rumble or other non-YouTube sites for content creation and what they could do to make themselves bigger. And I remember you saying that they needed more normie content.
Yes, they do.
That would be a big help, because as Rumble has said, that people claim they're all politics. And to some extent, that's mostly true. There's a lot of political channels on Rumble. However, recently, they got a bunch of big, mostly homesteader channels. Now, I find that really funny, because I feel like that's like the next logical step, because it's like, oh, you got all the conservatives. Now you're getting all the people who don't want to be reliant on the supply chain.
Yeah.
Like, it just seems like, that's what should come next. If you're expanding from off of conservatives, that's probably the next group. But those channels could be so just unpolitical, completely unpolitical, to say, this is how you garden, this is how you can. That seems like it shouldn't be political. And it's kind of funny to me, though, because to say this, but it is actually political for the silliest of reasons.
I was going to say the same thing, because it's like, well, conservatives tend to be preppers and homesteaders, and therefore it's, this content's political. And it's like, oh, geez, shut up.
Yeah. I mean, it's only political now because it's like, if you disrupt the supply chain on purpose or because of bad policy, it then ends up being a political act to take care of yourself.
A response,
it's a response, and like taking care of yourself, making sure your family's going to be fed, that you're going to have the supplies you need. Suddenly, it's political, and it's like,
you're being selfish, caring about yourself and your family, and looking after yourself and your family.
Well,
that's how they can spin it.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's like, to me, I know it all boils down to, don't you know, daddy government should be taking care of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. And I see them ask for things like that all the time. Like, the whole student loan thing, cancel student loans. I have student loans. Did you see the Women's March demand that made no sense?
No, I mean, is this recent?
Yeah, this is recent. It's kind of
Okay.
hilarious because they said that 2/3 of all student loan debt is owed by women.
Well, geez, I wonder why. Maybe because there's more women going to college these days, and they
And
have the
it's
highest enrollment rates these days.
actually they were wrong. They women have less than half the amount of debt,
Oh,
mostly
really?
because they couldn't do math. They can't do math. They have
Oh, that's where that came from. Okay, I remember seeing somebody post that on Twitter. I didn't realize that came from the Women's March. That's funny.
yeah. So it's actually less than half, which means even though men make up less college graduates, they own more student loan debt.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And everyone's laughing about it because it's like, you literally can't do math. But that to me was another, yeah, it's like maybe you'd be better with your student loans if you could do math. I don't know. And
well, as we all know, math is racist. So.
Yeah, and it's sexist too, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
At this point, now I have some student loan debt, but mine's almost gone, and because I've been paying it like
right.
a responsible adult human being.
It's funny how that works, right?
I know, and I was like, I don't want daddy government to come in and take away the rest of my student loan debt. That doesn't fix anything.
No, it doesn't.
And in the same way, I don't want them to fix my life in any other way. And that's the problem with this whole, anti-homesteader attitude, is that it's about wanting to rely on the government for your needs and your desires on top of that. And it's just immature. And this is why they're okay with censorship as well. They want them to come in like a parent and stop everyone from saying mean things to them.
Mm-hmm. Well, it goes back to responsibility too, right? I mean, it's like, that's the one thing that we're not teaching, I think, our young people these days is to be responsible for yourself. I mean, the whole thing with the student loans debts, I mean, comes down to responsibility. It's like, this is, you were the one, okay, granted, you probably got suckered into it by the college. But that's not right. I mean, that should be stopped. But at the end of the day, it was your decision.
Yep. I mean, it's a self-accountability issue. Yeah. Like, if you don't believe in self-accountability, then you want someone to come rescue you.
Yep.
And the thing is, though, like, I agree with you that there are problems with how student loans are being given out. For one
it's definitely
thing,
predatory for sure, but at the end of the day, you're still the one who does it.
Yeah, you still signed for it. You have to accept that. Like, I will freely admit that college is way more expensive than it used to be, that it is impossible to work, nearly impossible to work your way through college without student loan debt. And also, though, there are way too many fluff kind of degrees. There are degrees that don't need to be degrees, that could be trade schools or apprenticeships as well. So, I mean, and then there are way too many administrators making way too much money at most universities. So, like, I don't think that even if canceling student loan debt takes off a lot of pressure from my generation, which has the most of it, the millennials, I don't think it solves any of the problems. It's a bread and circus response to get us to shut up about those problems. It's not going to fix them. It'll just, it just puts it on the next generation that you're going to have bad student loans and you're going to have to go into debt to get an education or whatever. So to me, I'm like, for so many reasons, don't let this be the answer, because it's not an answer. It's not. It's not an answer. And for one, immediately on my principles of self-accountability, I'm not okay with it. And then beyond that, when it comes to what it would solve, it's a useless solution.
Yeah, absolutely is.
And they want to apply this kind of attitude to censorship. I've known people in my generation who are actually pro-government censorship, not just like censorship from the big social media companies, but from the government. And I could foresee that they would use it mainly to protect people in power from criticism. That's mostly what they're going to be using it for.
Yeah.
They'll say it's to make sure everyone's treating you decently, but that's not actually the truth.
No, it's there to protect politicians and large companies. It's the reason why YouTube took away the dislike button.
Yes. God, that was the dislike button was I've noticed that about like a lot of social media companies, that the dislike button to them, some of them learned before they even like really got big, oh no, we don't want that dislike button.
Oh yeah,
we don't want it. Because we're seeing how it affects YouTube and other platforms. So that's why Twitter has nothing like that. Facebook has nothing like that, even though people have been asking it for it on Facebook for years. Give us a dislike button, and they're like, nope, not doing it. I remember when they came out with the other reactions, people were like, gee, you came out with 5 new reactions when we only wanted the one new one, the dislike button. But they'll never do it. I mean,
they won't, unfortunately.
Which, by the way, this is something about those buttons that not a lot of people realize. So say that you run a group on Facebook and you post something and people react to it poorly, but that's the point. You're supposed to be showing them like an article or a bit of news that is enraging in some regard. But it's true. It's just, it pisses you off, and it's supposed to. So, it's whatever the content is. It's like, oh, someone, a teacher got in trouble for doing something illegal with their students. That pisses people off. Like,
right.
Okay, you use the angry button. All right, a lot of you do. Like, say it's a big group and 100 people react to it with the angry button. On the admin side for the Facebook group, they start getting notifications from Facebook that their content is pissing off users, and that if they don't cut it out, they will close the group.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Wow.
I learned about that in a Downton Abbey fan group of all places. The admins were like, please stop reacting negatively to things, even if it is negative. Like, you're going to get the group shut down. And I was like, whoa, why even, like, they put that out there and they didn't tell anyone that that's what that's used for. So it's like, the thing is, though, is that it's like sometimes you're like, maybe you're just talking to your friends and you say, this horrible thing happened to me today, and your friends react angrily on your behalf, like, oh, I'm angry with you. Like, would that, like, if you posted a lot of content like that, would you get banned from Facebook? I don't know. Like, I don't know what the rules. Yeah.
I'll be honest, I stopped using Facebook. I think it's a trash site.
Oh, it is. It definitely is. But I still use it just to share stuff. Like, I don't interact on it all that much anymore. Like, I'm in groups, but I don't really like post to them because I'm a little worried about what Facebook is going to be saying to me about my content. I did get in trouble for posting something about Kyle Rittenhouse once.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, he's like, oh, it's totally unsurprising that happened. A lot of people got in trouble for posting stuff about Kyle Rittenhouse on Facebook. I imagine
a lot of people got in trouble for posting stuff that was pro Kyle Rittenhouse, not negative.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. If you called him a murderer, you'd probably be fine.
You'd be fine, yeah.
Although, if you were big enough, now Kyle might be coming for you with a lawsuit.
That's good.
Yes, that is good. It's very good, especially since he's going after people who said it after he was acquitted. That's kind of his decision, which I think is, from a legal standpoint, the smart one. But like, Facebook is scary, not just in its copyright, but in how much it listens to you, how much it pays attention to the other things you're doing.
Yeah.
I've gotten ads for it that I don't think it should have been able to show me. in a creepy data mining kind of way.
Yes.
But when it comes to like, I've always said this. What was it? Someone posted a video recently about data mining, which, since we brought up Facebook, I wanted to bring this up, and how they would use it to control the population of the world, control people, essentially. And I was thinking about that, because it's like, well, you wouldn't be using people to make your decisions or to force things to happen or react to each individual and their data. You'd be using probably an algorithm to do so. I was thinking about how stupid algorithms are. No matter how much data they have, I keep running into them doing something really dumb. Like, I mentioned this on an earlier episode with someone else, a misinformation tag on like a silly graphic about put together the first letter of your last name and the last letter of your first name to make your, fandom name,
Right.
essentially.
Yeah.
And it put a tag on that. So I was like, I can't imagine what kind of hellscape they would create by controlling the population based entirely on data in all parts of your life.
What they're trying to do is learn how to influence people and how they vote is ultimately the goal. But it's going to only get worse as I'm not going to say as the algorithms get smarter, but the whole purpose of machine learning is to learn and adapt and whatnot based off the data that's available to it. And it will make better decisions the more data it consumes. Because right now, I mean, you could say that the concept is still kind of in its infancy.
Mm-hmm.
It's only going to get better. I'm not going to say smarter, because it's not smart. It's just it's an algorithm, right? It's basically using data, and you train the model. So the more data it has, the more it's being trained on, the better it's going to be at what it does.
Okay. Oh, I guess it is relatively new. So that makes sense. I wonder, though, that they would even really want voting. I mean, I suppose some countries that are actual dictatorships have voting. So
yeah. They have voting, and it's typically voting for the party. And
yeah,
I'm trying to remember, it's like years ago. It's like, I think it was like either Saddam Hussein or maybe it was China. I was like, oh, so-and-so got reelected. It's like he was the only choice. What are you talking about?
Yeah. I remember I think I was in junior high and someone talked about Russia voting, and it was like, and I can't remember what year they were talking about. They said like, oh, a 99% turnout, and everyone voted for the same person, and because there were no other options and voting was mandatory. So it was like impossible. It's like, yeah, when you do it like that, that's not really a free election. This is my thought on mandatory voting, which I know some people want, is that not voting is still a vote, and not in the way they like to say, where it's like you're voting for the other guy. To me, it's a vote of saying, I don't think any of these options are worth my time, or that the act of voting is worth my time. I feel like that is still a vote. It's just
a lack of confidence in the system.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I think if governments actually cared, they would pay attention to that proportion, because it means that you're not actually meeting the needs of your citizens.
You would think, but I don't think they care, right?
No,
I think
they don't care.
The lower the turnout, it's better for them, because the smaller pool of people they need to influence, it's going to be easier on them. It's more dangerous when you have more people showing up to the polls, because it makes it more difficult for them to control them.
Yeah. And I know that the last couple of presidential elections had huge turnouts, apparently, and that those
bigger, that's for sure.
Yeah, bigger. And they felt very much up in the air, to me anyway. But so I could see your point there. Now, I want to bring it back to YouTube a little bit more. So, and actually, let's go back to the Ukraine issue. So there, there's a lot going on in Europe right now with Ukraine and Russia. And there are a lot of independent journalists in the area trying to report on it right now, because that's, what indie journalists do.
Yeah.
And their method of getting that information out there is almost always social media platforms.
Yes.
Because it's a ready-made audience, ready-made distribution. It's the best way, technically, supposedly, of getting your content out there. Now, Twitter has blocked a few of these accounts. Mostly, they've even blocked English-speaking accounts, which is important to note, not because, Westerners who speak English are not getting this information, but because most of the algorithms for blocking accounts are built on English. So smaller accounts that are mostly in another language actually get blocked more often by accident. Now, they're saying that these English language ones also got blocked on accident. That it was a fault of the algorithm. And now, why in the world would we believe that? I don't know. But look, for the sake of argument, let's say that it was just a fluke that this specific kind of content was getting flagged and these accounts were getting suspended. The fallout from that is that your only option to learn anything about the Ukraine situation is to go to legacy media.
Yes. I find that very interesting because one of the things that made the Arab Spring so successful was Twitter. And now you see them censoring this type of content.
Yes.
I find that rather interesting. But that, again, it was a different day and age.
Yeah.
Even though it was like a little bit over a decade ago, but
I know it seems like a lot has changed in the last 10 years specifically, especially when it comes to social media platforms and what they have decided, like how they do things, their direction of their principles, essentially. Now, all that has changed in the last 10 years. I 100% agree that is like, it doesn't feel like it should be that long ago. It feels like it should be a much longer time frame that they, for them to make this kind of drastic change. And especially considering the fact that some of the same people who founded these companies are still mostly in charge. And especially when they started implementing these new decisions. And you have to wonder what, went on, in philosophically, financially for these kind of changes in whether or not they censor happen. Now, some of them have been running into the issue of certain governments saying, we're making this illegal. You have to work with us on that, or otherwise we'll start fining you. For example, Gab, the social media platform, keeps getting hounded by the German government over not policing hate speech. And so they keep trying, Germany keeps trying to fine them. They keep trying to tell them, like, get out of our country. Like, there's 3 choices there. And I know the CEO of Gab is basically saying that he doesn't want to give in, and he doesn't want to take away Gab from the German citizens.
Right.
Which is mostly principled if you're going to claim that you are a anti-censorship platform. One of the things that you will have to do to prove that is stand up to a government that is trying to censor on your platform.
That's such a weird thing. So I know that's Twitter's excuse, right? It's like, we're a national company, therefore we're going to try and abide by the laws of these other countries. But Twitter is an American company, which you'd think that they would have to abide by just American laws. Now you see this stuff with Gab. So that makes you wonder, how is that going to play out? I mean, are they going to send people over to black bag the CEO of Gab and drag them to Germany to try them, or I mean, it's just a freaking website, right? It's a social media platform that is created by an American, run, in America.
Yeah.
So I mean,
that's one of his arguments, actually.
Yeah.
That's one of his arguments, is that we're an American company, we're American citizens, we don't have any servers in Germany, it doesn't matter. And yeah, definitely. And it is, I am wondering, what will Germany do? They'll probably, my guess is that they'll sue him in international court first, more than anything, for paying the fines. That's my guess. And it's funny too, because he said he'd still work with German law enforcement if there were like serious crimes going on Gab, which is reasonable. It's reasonable to say, we found posts of people talking about robbing a bank. Here you go. That's reasonable. But asking them to censor is a completely different, that's a philosophical argument. That is not something that I think anyway, that a government has any right to do. So
I agree.
So to me, I find it kind of funny that's going on, but I applaud him for standing up for anti-censorship on social media, because I think we do have to be worried when it comes to being for being activists against censorship, that we don't end up falling for a grifter who says, I'm creating a platform, or I'm doing this to protect you from censorship, and it just being a lie. For example, I mean, Twitter used to say we're pro freedom of speech. They used to say that.
yeah. Jack Dorsey said they're the free speech party, or free speech wing of the free speech party. And it's like,
yes.
What happened to that? And
yeah. I mean,
it's turned into, censor influence, and I had another thing for it, but yeah, I mean, that's basically what they turn into: censor and influence.
Yeah. And
control.
Control. Yes.
Control.
Yeah. Well, and then a lot of this censorship has to do with catch and kill, essentially. They want to catch a story and kill it. And they've been doing it with reviews that entertainment industries don't like. They've been doing it with images, videos, and writings of people, who change their minds about things that makes them not look so good.
Well, YouTube is doing something new. They're actually going to try and catch what they call harmful content before it goes viral and suppress it. So they don't even have to do that anymore. They can just go suppressed. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you saw that, but there was this thing where they started doing this. This video was too popular.
Yes. Yeah. With the trucker convoy. Yeah.
You have to sign in.
Subscribe. Yeah.
You have to subscribe to
watch this content.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
That was a kill method.
Mm-hmm.
That was definitely a kill method that they created. And they'll use it again. They'll use it on other things. Maybe they'll be using it on Ukraine footage. I mean, that's the problem, is that Twitter was already trying to get rid of it. So it's a really big issue here, that the internet opened up all these doors for seeing things we never could see before.
Yes.
Without legacy media or the government approving it, essentially. And now big tech is doing whatever they can to lock that down, which I think that's kind of how they got built up in the first place, though, as an alternative, as a way for people to share amazing things out in the world that they had no other method beforehand of really getting out there. So to me, it feels like a complete and utter backtrack on what the internet, what social media was good for. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's essentially killing these big social media platforms, because the
irony behind it is what made the internet big was, when larger businesses started adopting the internet, that's what made it more popular, right? Now you're having the reverse effect. It's killing it. Yeah. Because back when I got on the internet, I mean, there was, there was barely websites like Coke.com, stuff like that. Now everybody has a freaking website. If you don't have a website in your company, it's strange.
Yeah, I actually really agree with that. When I was looking for an agent back when I thought I would do traditional publishing, I found like I had this list of agents from poets and writers, and like if they didn't have an internet page and like a website, I was like, well, why would I have them be my agent? What century are they living in?
Right.
Now it's like it's a weird thing if you don't have a website of some kind. You don't have some kind of internet presence as a company. It essentially shows like a lack of presence, essentially. Like
nobody uses the phone book anymore. That's how people used to find companies, was the phone book, specifically in your local area. Now it's the internet. I mean, who uses Yellow Pages anymore?
Well, I remember I got one like a couple of years ago, and like it got sent to my house, and I was like, what in the world? This still exists? Who uses this?
I remember my Yellow Pages used to be like that thick, and the last time I got one, it was about like that thick.
Well, for one thing, they used to pay for themselves with ads from companies, like bigger spreads and stuff. But I don't think companies really have to do that anymore because the internet exists. Now, the problem is I see for smaller companies, especially, is not being on AWS. Is to stay away from that. Like, it's important as a business to be on social media, unfortunately, but I would say find a way to not be on AWS, because they're you say one wrong thing, they might
there's lots of cloud providers out there. I actually don't use AWS. I use DigitalOcean, which is pretty good.
That's good. Which, by the way, AWS is hiring. They keep sending me job application. They're like,
they pay pretty well. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, they do. But I would never work for them. But I
get hit up every now and then too by them.
Oh gosh. Yeah. But yeah, I think AWS would do some catch and kill too. Actually, I think most of these big companies now for the internet would do catch and kill. Like, I could see Alphabet doing it for ads. Like, actually, I did read about that they were like, we're not putting up ads for these specific companies because they're saying hateful things. And it was something like conservative groups that, and they couldn't point to the thing that they said that was hateful in their ads or anything.
Huh.
Yeah. So, I mean, that one's a little harder. I'm like, how do you do ads without running into Alphabet? Because they seem to own most of the ad space on the internet.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky.
That one's hard to get around. I don't know.
I'm trying to remember who did ads before, but they basically kind of dominate the market now, don't they?
They do dominate the market. Like, I know Microsoft has ads, Bing ads, I think it's called, but that's not any better.
No,
I wouldn't do that one either. But I think catch and kill is like a common practice now. I feel like because it's not just the copyright striking. It's just any excuse one of these companies could come up with to take down something they don't like, to get rid of it, to make sure that the narrative is under their control, unfortunately. And it's why we need to promote these alternate sources. And maybe for next time, we can look up some alternate sources for ad space on the internet.
Yeah, for sure.
So we can talk about it.
Well, the other thing too, this is why this is funny, because this is how the internet started, right? Is everybody had their own website, and then these really convenient applications came along, like Facebook, Twitter, and it's like, what's the point in having a website anymore when you can just do everything here? Now we're getting to the point, because of censorship, people are going back to creating their own websites again. Now, I think that's the biggest way we're going to fight censorship for the time being, because at some point they'll start going after the host.
Yes.
But building your own website, hosting your own content, I think is the best way to take that power back from Google, Facebook, and Twitter.
And I think researching who the company that you're getting your website from, that's very important. because you need to know what their policies are on censorship, or if they said pro-censorship things before. And the same is true actually of your payment methods. If you are an online store, you have to find a payment method that is not going to essentially shut you down.
Like PayPal. Yeah.
Yep. So like there's all these big companies involved in this, and a lot of them are just 100% willing, mostly because of stakeholder capitalism, which you talk about a lot.
Yes, I do.
To shut down websites and access to a lot of people and a lot of companies, a lot of smaller companies. So it's something we need to like fight. And I think you're right. Websites, your own website, and you have to do the due diligence to find out whether or not who you buy your website hosting from and the domain is all on the up and up. Same thing with your payment processing.
Yep. I mean, it's scary that we've gotten to this point. I mean, it's like the idea, I say something on the internet and suddenly, oh, my payment processor doesn't like what I said, and it's gotten yanked. I actually ran into something very similar recently with my Ko-Fi page. It got suspended, and I have no idea why. I'm assuming somebody reported me. It's like I don't paste anything. I don't post anything on there, but it's a means for when I'm doing a live stream as an alternate to get around Mama Susan if somebody wants to, do like a alternate super chat. And so the only thing that's like listed there is like super chats essentially. And for whatever reason, my page got yanked. And I fought it and I won because I don't have any, thing that's violating their terms of service. But it was, I'm guessing, flagged for hate speech or something like that. Most likely.
Someone got a wild hair up their ass to take you down.
Yeah, somebody didn't like what I was saying. There's people out there that don't like me, so
yeah. I've been, when it comes to that method, that random person, I've been relatively safe so far. I've been lucky, but I don't, as my channel grows and the
you'll attract it at some point in time.
Yes, I will. I know that, and I'm prepared for it, but I don't think it's something that we should be vulnerable to, though. The fact that they're so willing to just accept the word of some random person on most of these platforms is just ridiculous.
Well, not only that, it's like you need to have the right to face your accuser. I don't like it's like I understand anonymous, right? It's like if especially if your life depends on it, but this is the internet. Your life doesn't depend on it. You should be able to find out who is reporting you and go, oh, okay, I understand why, because that person doesn't like me. They're reporting me. But you should be able to have the capacity to go and fight that and know who is trying to, false flag you.
Well, and they should also have evidence to do so. Like instead of them just claiming, that's the big problem here.
Claiming.
Is that there's a claim and there is no backup to the claim. They don't have to provide something. Most of the time, they don't have to provide anything. They can just say it.
Make anything up, yeah.
Yeah, and most of these platforms will just go, sure, we accept that. And sometimes I wonder if the platform is so willing to accept that because they want to take people down. Like, is it designed that way that they're going to pick and choose who they believe? Because I've reported people for saying some pretty mean things, some dangerous things before to me, and nothing happened.
Oh, it's very much so ideologically driven.
Yes. Yeah. So, and then they report people for jokes, like clearly not serious content, where they say, that's hate speech. And it's like, oh God. You guys are really...
Zuby got busted for misgendering somebody by saying, okay, dude. And it's like...
I call everyone dude and man. I'll be like, I've called so many people man. I think I called my own mom man before. So I like sometimes, so those words are just, they're not actually gendered at that point. They're just like something you call someone. Like, is pal gendered? I don't really think so. But they they try
to do the same thing with guys. Hey, you guys. Referring to as a collection of people, but you'd be surprised the number of people that get offended by that. It's ridiculous. It's not inclusive.
I can't imagine how that feels from the perspective of like Spanish, because I know when
Mhm.
you pluralize a group that is mixed, you go male.
Yes.
Like that's the rule, and it's like I don't see a problem with that rule. Like like I don't give a crap, and, but I can. It's like you can't. There's no word that is plural that is asexual in Spanish. Like that. That's not a.
Yeah, there isn't. Well, it's funny because I guess that's the thing people complain about is that the default is male, and therefore it's sexist because it doesn't default or to a more neutral use or
Corner.
term or whatever.
Yeah. It's just silly though.
It
It's silly
is.
to get upset about these kind of things. Like it's not actually a big deal. Are you dying that someone's not calling you? And they argue they are, and I'm like,
Yeah.
which
Words
is
are
like,
violence.
yeah, and I'm like, I don't know. I think people who've been in war zones have things to say about that, or who've actually been attacked by people.
The thing
Like,
that's scary is like, and I've heard this term actually used, is that oh, I was emotionally wounded.
like here's the thing, like I have a generalized anxiety disorder. I have triggers. I do. Like I hate using that word now because
Mhm.
they've made it like stupid. They've made it so
Yeah.
stupid. Everything's a trigger. And it's so hard for me to talk seriously about something that has triggered me because of this. And the thing is though is that as well, I don't want to be wrapped in bubble wrap.
No.
I don't I because here's the thing about triggers is that you're supposed to go through therapy that makes you not respond to triggers.
Right.
And you're not supposed to just live with them. You're supposed to deal with them, make them go away
But
eventually, hopefully.
that's the funny thing about it is that mental illness or having some sort of mental defect or issue or whatnot is becoming a personality trait. That's the thing that's so weird about it.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is another one of those things that they use and it's as an excuse to censor people. Is that it's like like, oh, you didn't use a trigger warning to talk about this dark subject.
Jesus. Be an adult. Oh my
I
God.
know.
That's one thing I'm always curious about is like how do these people function in the real world? You didn't provide a trigger warning.
Mm.
So what?
Like
Move
when
on.
you
Be
go,
an adult. Grow up.
I know when you go to get your coffee and you see maybe some people by you are talking about a TV show where someone
Mhm.
got sexually assaulted. Do you freak out? Like, and do you yell at them? Like, what do you do? It doesn't
I'm
feel.
pretty sure some people do.
Yeah, some people do. And it's like that's not really living. It's not really thriving. Certainly, it's actually damaging to you to react and allow yourself to react to that level. Like I don't want to react to the level I do to my anxiety triggers, and I work on it all the time
Mhm.
because it's not fun. It's
No,
not
I imagine it's not.
enjoyable.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't indulge a mental health condition like as a person who suffers from a mental health condition.
But
You
that's what we're
shouldn't.
doing these days.
Yeah, and a lot of people want to indulge their mental health
Mhm.
conditions. They're like
Well, like
they
I said, it's
find it.
because it's become like it's a piece that they view as defining them. It's like, yeah,
Hmm.
there's plenty of things that I have. I'm dyslexic. It's not. It's just something. It's a condition I have. It's not a part of who I am. It's not something. My dyslexia defines me as a person. It's like no, it's the thing I deal with.
Yeah, it's just something you deal with. Like if you were missing one of your pinkies, like it's the thing you deal with. It's not you.
Yeah.
That the fact that you're missing a pinky is not who you are. It doesn't define you. And requiring that everybody, you know, help you by cutting the pinky off of half the gloves in the world would be a stupid thing to do.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what's going on there. And it is affecting writing, especially like novels, like when it comes to literary fiction, people freak out over stuff like dark topics, that like sexual assaults, things like that. They're like, they freak out. They don't want them depicted. They do want them depicted, but only in a certain way. And it's like, shut up. You're not the artist. You want to write a novel about something like this, then you do it. Don't tell them how to write their novel.
It's that same mentality is ingrained everywhere in entertainment now. It's like,
yes, it's everywhere. They can't be okay.
You can't write about a certain group of people a certain way.
Yeah. And nor can you write about people who you are not.
Oh, God. I remember when that first started popping up, I was like, are you insane?
Yeah. It's one of the grossest things to come out of all this is that whole, you literally writing is empathy. No.
So well, the other thing too, I mean, you see, there was a movie that was scheduled to be created. It's called Rub and Tug a number of years ago. And it was about I don't know if it was truly a trans man, but it was about a woman who dressed as a man and ran like a brothel, and it had Scarlett Johansson, and they actually got the movie canceled because it did not have a trans man playing the part. Talk about causing damage to your own cause.
Yeah. Oh, because like that means then there's one less depiction of the trans experience in movies. Like that's all you did.
Pretty much.
Although I will say this, for it being such a small percentage of the population, they are in almost every single literary novel coming out.
Well, they're trying to do the same thing with entertainment, right? They're trying to make sure that there's more trans representation in movies, TV shows, comics.
They really did capture novels like a couple of years ago. It was pretty gross, like how captured novels are, and how long it's been going on. Because I think it's because of the fact that a lot of publishing now for literary novels is who like you had to have gone to a specific college and have a specific teacher, and they would help you find a publisher, which meant you were all already ideologically captured, essentially, to get into literary novels. So, and I think that's why it happened, and it happened several years ago now. I think it's gaining momentum in the other entertainment industries. Like we're at the peak now, essentially, of them gaining momentum for capturing those industries. Unfortunately, I like the thing is though about all of that, about them, being so afraid of how they depict everything, is that you can't win. Like some group is gonna get mad. And then we end up with we're going to end up with a literal 451 degrees situation, Fahrenheit 451, where everything is not allowed because every group, as he said in the coda, will have their complaints, and then they'll just destroy it all, just burn it all. And that's the problem, is that censorship is an ever-growing issue. Like they keep pushing and pushing and pushing that line for all their different reasons, like narrative control, not wanting competitors to get an advantage, not wanting people with mental health issues to be triggered, or whatever the other reason, or not letting women or Black people or take your pick on minorities get insulted. And so that line just keeps getting pushed and pushed and pushed out until there is literally nothing that can be said. There's no room for truth or for bravery. And that is the real problem with censorship, is that it kills any ability to eventually say anything.
Yeah. I'm waiting for the day that opinions need to be approved. It feels like we're getting there.
Yeah, we're getting close. People can't even talk about topics and have an opinion without it being labeled misinformation or getting a copyright strike.
Exactly.
It's like things. It's like
your opinion is misinformation. It's my opinion.
Yeah.
Misinformation.
Yes, exactly. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Ian. It's always great to have you on and to talk to you about these subjects. So this has been the 451 Degrees podcast on the Unsafe Space Network. Thank you so much for joining me. If you could walk your fingers over to the like, share, and subscribe button, we would really appreciate it. And comment below to let us know what you thought about this varied topics that we've covered today.
It seems like we always seem to drift.
Yeah, we do. We drift. And we will see you guys next time.
Thanks for sticking around until the end. If you're new to Unsafe Space, check out our deep content library that includes discussions with everyone from James Lindsay to Brett Weinstein. And please consider helping to fund our work by visiting unsafespace.com/donate. You can find us on a variety of social media platforms, and you can find a community of like-minded individuals on our Unsafe Space Discord server, which is open to financial supporters at any level. We hope to see you there.
Warning. This is an unsafe space. Dangerous ideas have been detected. The content of this production has not been approved by Neil Young. Please consider canceling the responsible parties. Here's a list. Do you know what's fascist? When truckers refuse to deliver products to the ruling class. That's what the dictionary says. I swear. The continued war on drugs will require the distribution of free crack pipes. If you think about it, no one should be allowed to express opinions. But don't. Think about it, I mean. That's not your job. Thinking has been scientifically proven to be less efficient than compliance. Science, scientific, and scientifically are registered trademarks of the World Economic Forum. Unauthorized use is prohibited. Computer voice courtesy. Never mind, that last line is fake news. Please disregard it and return to your safe space immediately. There will be cake.